Hello, creatures. Have you ever seen The Matrix, or Poltergeist, or Black Christmas? Maybe Aliens? Or have you at least seen Kitchen Nightmares and hear that meme sound? Because if you have, the thing that made that sound is this, the waterphone. Now, what I have right here is not the official waterphone. This one is the Grand Whalophone. Whalophone? I don't know how to actually pronounce that word. It's a different word. Now, this instrument was used in various horror films throughout the years to make scary sound effects. And you can play it a number of different ways. You could bow it, you could hit it with mallets, you could strike it, scrape it, and that's what I'm doing today. Gonna be making some scary music with just this, and only this. Now, playing around with that, I found that there are only so many different ways that you could play it and actually get a multitude of different sounds out of it. Most of them are pretty samey. So I'm going to be processing some of these recordings in different programs like Phase Plant or Novum or whatever else I can think of to kind of get some new and interesting and different sounds out of it. For this project, I decided that I wasn't going to stick to just samples of bowing or hitting the instrument. I was going to change some of the sounds to do other things. And for that, I mostly used Phase Plant. I think one of these uses Novum, but they mostly all use Phase Plant. Now, the first sound that I have here is a bit of a low cluster. I took a sample that sounds like this. It's got like 2 tones in there, and I used the sampler module, put in the start point and then a loop point, because earlier in the sample I think it sounds like this. I didn't really want that, so I wanted to set it around here. Got a little bit of distortion and some comb filtering on it to kind of narrow down some of the frequencies that I wanted, and in this track I'm playing some of the more lower notes. So we get something very dissonant, very drone-like, very, very bassy. Also down here I have a bit of an LFO table, and that is modulating the shift here, but very, very slightly. So it's giving a little bit of vibrato, but it's very, very hard to hear. It's very subtle. For the second sound that I have, I'm using the granular module instead of the sampler module. And so with this one, I have the sample in here, and it's mostly one tone, so I can get actual notes out of it. And with this, I have a few grains going throughout the sound, and these grains are going forward and backward. What's cool about the granular module in Phase Plant, I found, is that I can set the phase, shift, and harmonic in any of these points, but that will affect each individual grain and not just the overall sound, which is why you can hear this pitch stuff. So it's just very, very, very slightly going in and out of tune. But this is another tonal sound that allows me to get more notes out of it instead of just the sound effect part of the waterphone. Now, this third sound that I have here, I'm using Novum for this. Now, Novum has an interesting way of dealing with sounds. It breaks down samples into each individual part, and these parts here, I think, at least I think the way this works, is that they're separated by frequency range, so some of these will be more low-end Some of them will be more mids. That's pretty low. This is higher. And of course, with each of those separate parts, I can actually control them separately. So some of these actually have a faster grain speed than some of the others. Now, the one thing with Novum that's different than the Phase Plant granular is that I can't control how many grains are across the whole sample. So what we could see here is that there's a lot of them. So even though it's a bit of a low-pitched kind of sound, I do still have some high-end stuff in there, so there's a bit of noise, and that adds a good little texture to this sound. This next sound is a bassy drone, and I took a sample and actually put it into the wavetable module here, and I converted the sample into a wavetable. I'm modulating the frames of the wavetable with this envelope here, so when I hit a note, it's going to go down a few frames, and then it's going to come back. This envelope is also modulating the semitone of this analog modulator right here, which is actually modulating the phase of the wavetable sound. So I'm getting a little bit of like a faux FM type of thing going on here. And over here in the effects, I have a bit of a filter, which can be modulated with both velocity and my mod wheel. I have a little bit of distortion on the sound as well, including a dual delay. Very loud, very droney, very bassy type sound. Now, this sound that I have here, I think I transformed the most. So the sample that I originally have actually sounds a little something like this. And in this instrument, it sounds like this. Now, what's happening is I'm also modulating this sample with this sawtooth wave, and I have a very short envelope, so it's not going to modulate the full sound, only just the attack there, because I do want a little bit of a impact with the sound, because this is also pitched down quite a bit. And over here I have a couple different distortions. I have normal distortion, and then I have phase distortion, which is making it a bit noisy sounding. So too much drive gives it that sound, but just around the middle gives me the sweet spot. And of course, if I were to extend the decay, it would sound like this. Which is not what I want for this. I want something very short. There we go. Now this one's just a simple sampler. There's nothing too much going on except a little bit of reverb. Just very straightforward, just wanted one of the samples in here. This next one I'm also using the sampler, but I have a loop near the end there, and I have a flanger, which gives it this sort of weird kind of trippy kind of sound. And there's a little bit of LFO affecting both the phase and the pitch shift right here. So you can hear it just getting slightly detuned over time. Now this next sample is actually really cool. I found out while recording it that if I were to put the whole of the waterphone right underneath the microphone, I could get more of a low-end sound because of the way the vibrations come up through the actual hole. to the top instead of recording it from the side, which would only get you the higher pitch sounds of the rods vibrating. Now with this sound, I have 2 sets of distortion and a filter and a little bit of delay. And this sound, I wanted it to act as kind of like a crescendo because that is how I recorded it. And so that is what the climax of this piece is sort of centered around. After the rest of it is gone, this sound sort of just gets louder and louder and louder until the big hit. Now this next sound I got by taking the back end of the stick and just rotating it around the rods. I don't have it looping, I don't have it modulated much, I just have it like that, and I play a few high notes, and then a few low notes as well. There's a little bit of a bit crushing effect, but I also boosted the highs on this because I wanted the high end to be heard more than the lower end. This next sound here is also just a straightforward sample. Just an upward gliss. This is also a straightforward sample. It does have a loop right at the very end, and there's a little bit of stereo spacing and a little bit of reverb, but it's mostly just a sample. I'm not doing much to process or change it. Now this very last sound is interesting. I took the back end of a mallet and stuck it between 2 rods and then just shook them really, really fast. And that sounds like this. And those are the sounds that I'm using in this piece. Now, I did actually start this project a little earlier in the week, and I actually did it on a live stream, but as it stands, it's really more of an idea rather than a finished piece, so I'm going to try and go back into it, see what I can fix about it, and actually get it to finish. So let's do that. Let's give this a listen, see what I have right now. Okay, I think I know what I can do. I'm going to try and find sections for each of this stuff and then see if I can move the piece forward in other ways. I'm going to solo this for now. Actually a little long. I feel like it might be better if this part, this atmospheric part, follows this and this. Yeah, I think that works. I think that works. Now Now the percussion. Where am I going to put the percussion? Now this sound that I just made, this sound I made it a little bit chimes-like. It's very, very high-pitched, very ringy, very rattly. Let's see. Oh, this one. This one will be interesting, I think. Can I move the end point? Maybe I have to move it to the very last one. That would make sense. It's the loudest part as well. I think overall the idea that I wanted with this track is not to come up with something too epic, but something a bit more foreboding, unsettling, creepy, eerie, and then it would slowly build up to a climax, but the climax was not meant to be that intense. And that's the song. It was a little bit difficult trying to get interesting things out of it to try and make them into other instruments. Well, not make them into other instruments, but rather to kind of fill in the gaps that other instruments in a normal kind of horror cue might have, like, say, something melodic, like a string section, or something bassy, like some bass, or something a little higher in pitch, like a woodwind section. I wasn't trying to really recreate those instruments, but the space that those instruments occupy are kind of what I wanted to also do with this, and just use the waterphone to accomplish that. And I think I managed to do that, kind of, sort of. But yeah, it was a bit of work to try and isolate single sounds and work with them in a way that I could make them either melodic or tonal or harmonic or percussive. But I think I managed to do that. And now it's your turn to go out there and get creative. You don't need to get a waterphone, though. They can be quite expensive and hard to find. But yeah, now it's your turn. Also, if you like this video and you do want to see more like it, I want to do more. And yeah, and I'll see you next time. So, bye.